My name was Anna. 35 years old, divorced, skint, and so exhausted that I no longer knew whether I was running away from life or simply trying to catch up with it. 10 years earlier, I had still believed. Really believed. My best friend had taken me along to a little independent chapel in the suburbs. There, for the first time, I had heard that Jesus wasn't just some distant figure from the Bible, but someone who actually knew me. I had wept as I placed my life in his hands. For a few months, everything had felt different, lighter. Then came the career, then the man, then the flat in the expensive part of town and all the shared plans. Jesus grew quiet. Eventually, he disappeared altogether. Now I was alone. My ex-husband had run off 8 months earlier with a 27-year-old. We had dissolved the company, and the money was almost gone. All I had left was my old VW Golf, savings that would last 2 weeks, and the desire, just once in my life, not to think about tomorrow. That was why I was here. Snowdonia near Betws-y-Coed. A popular walking trail a colleague had recommended. That'll sort you out, she had said. I had been walking for 3 hours. The sun was high, my legs were burning, and my rucksack felt as if I had packed it with stones. When I spotted the next bench, a simple wooden one at the edge of the forest with a view over the valleys, I was simply grateful. I sat down, kicked off my boots and closed my eyes for a moment. Then I heard footsteps, 2 pairs, a man and a girl. They were perhaps 10 meters away, talking quietly. The man was in his mid-40s, tall, with grey streaks in his dark hair. The girl beside him looked about 16, with long brown plaits and a slightly oversized hoodie. They sat at the other end of the bench, not intrusive. Just there. I nodded to them politely and was about to close my eyes again when the man said softly, "Excuse me, is there room here?" "Plenty," I answered and smiled wearily. We sat in silence for a while. Then the girl began rummaging in her rucksack, and the man suddenly looked straight at me. "We're on a short holiday here too," he said. "I'm Hugh. This is my daughter Lowri." "Anna," I said. He hesitated for a second, then continued as though he had told the story many times and knew it still hurt. "My wife died 6 years ago. Cancer. It was quick. Lowri was 10. After that, well, I was at rock bottom. Had nothing left. No reason to get up in the morning. Until one night I sat in the car and just screamed. And then, I prayed. For the first time in years I really prayed. Not for healing, but for help. For meaning. And Jesus answered. Not with a voice, but with peace. With the knowledge that he is with us. Since then the two of us have walked with him. Day by day. He said it quite calmly. No drama. As if it were the most natural thing in the world. I felt the tears coming. I quickly looked away out over the valleys. His words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had once said all that, and I had thrown it away. For a man who had later left me. For a career that now lay in ruins. I didn't let it show. I just smiled and said, "That sounds lovely." Hugh nodded. Then he asked, quite matter-of-factly, "Are you staying up here longer?" 3 more days. I've rented a little holiday cottage. So have we. Just a few miles further on. If you fancy it, can quick keep in touch. Via signal or whatever. So you're not hiking completely on your own. I hesitated for only a moment. Then I gave him my number. He sent me a message straight away, so I had his. The next few days passed like a dream. We met by chance the following morning at a path junction. Then again that evening at a viewpoint. On the 3rd day, Hugh invited Lowri and me for a small picnic. We sat on a blanket, ate sandwiches and talked. Lowri was wonderful. Bright, funny, with a dry Welsh humour that kept making me laugh. She started calling me Anna, the cool hiking auntie, and for the first time in months I didn't feel like a failure, just me. Hugh was different from any man I had ever known. He didn't push. He listened. When he spoke about Jesus, it was never preachy. It was simply part of his life. Like breathing. On the last evening, the 3 of us sat on the deck of my holiday cottage. The sun was setting and the trees glowed golden. Lowri had gone inside to fetch a book. Then Hugh said quietly, "Anna, I like you very much. And Lowri likes you too. But I have to be honest. I can't just start a relationship like that anymore. Not now. I only want to be with a woman who walks with Jesus. Who knows him? Who loves him? Not because I'm better than anyone else, but because I know how broken I was without him, and I don't want to risk that again." The words hung in the air. I was silent for a long time. Then I simply said, "I understand." That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the little wooden bench in front of the cottage and stared into the dark forest. Everything came flooding back. The chapel, the tears when I prayed, the feeling that someone truly saw me, and how I had thrown it all away because life had seemed more important. I began to cry. Not quietly, properly. With great, heaving sobs. Eventually I whispered into the darkness, "Jesus, I'm sorry. I've gone so far from you. But if you still want me, please bring me back." There was no lightning. No angel appeared. Only a deep, warm peace I had not felt in years. As though someone had taken my hand and said, "I never let you go. The next morning I packed my things. Hugh and Lowri came to collect me because they wanted to drive me to the station. As we sat in the car, I said softly, "I prayed last night." Properly, for the first time in a very long time. Hugh glanced across at me. His eyes shone. Lowri, on the back seat, just grinned and said, "Knew it." We drove on in silence. None of us spoke of relationships or the future. It wasn't needed. Not yet. But when we reached the station and I got out, Lowri hugged me tight, and Hugh held my hand a little longer than necessary. "I'll be in touch," he said. "Me too," I replied. And for the first time in a long while I believed again that God knew exactly what he was doing, even with a divorced, skint 35-year-old woman who had only wanted to rest on a bench in Snowdonia. If it has touched you, please give it a like and subscribe. Share it with someone who's going through a tough time right now,